On August 26 at 2 p.m., the radiation levels of Hangzhou Bay were tested. The highest radiation value in the seawater of the bay was 0.215. China Central Television reported in a program that the radiation level in Tokyo was only 0.01. In an area about 6.5 kilometers away from Japan's Fukushima nuclear power plant, the highest radiation level was only about 0.2. On August 24, 2023, at noon, the Fukushima nuclear power plant in Japan began officially discharging so-called treated reactor cooling water into the sea. At the same time, state media in China launched comprehensive criticism against Japan, warning that the discharges from Fukushima might lead to various radiation-related diseases. Upon hearing the news, the Chinese public rushed to stores to stock up on salt, potassium iodide, and Prussian blue. Unexpectedly, Geiger counters also became bestsellers, resulting in supply shortages across the market. Tianmu News, a Chinese news agency based in Hangzhou, reported that the public used their newly purchased Geiger counters to test their home environments thoroughly. In a coastal city in Zhejiang province, Ms. Xia conducted a radiation test. The outdoor radiation level was 0.06 to 0.08 microsieverts per hour, but the level inside her home was as high as 0.1 to 0.2 microsieverts per hour. Microsieverts per hour measure the amount of radiation absorbed by the human body per hour. A level of 0.1 to 0.2 microsieverts per hour is actually within the range of natural background radiation. The radiation level when flying at high altitudes is only 3 to 5 microsieverts, and the maximum radiation near the Fukushima nuclear power plant is 2.0 microsieverts. So, when a resident from Shanghai discovered that the radiation in his home reached 9.7 microsieverts, 976 times that of Tokyo, and 5 times that of Fukushima, he was quite alarmed. The news spread online, sparking nationwide unease and skepticism. Not only did the public lose trust, but even online nationalists and pro-government commentators expressed doubts. Some questioned, why is the radiation level in a newly renovated bathroom higher than in other parts of the house? Some stated that they would bring Geiger counters to test radiation levels when buying building materials in the future. The Chinese government immediately took control measures, deleting posts that claimed radiation levels within China were even higher than those in Fukushima. Online discussions were dominated by claims of inaccurate measurements by Geiger counters and arguments suggesting they weren't accurate when used at home. Regarding this, netizens could only sigh in resignation, comparing it to how the government handled COVID-19, during which no explanation was given for lockdowns and no explanations were given for lifting lockdowns. Everything seems to be done on a whim. Some speculated that soon there might be laws prohibiting private radiation testing. Unexpectedly, what was originally an anti-Japanese sentiment and a rush to buy iodized salt led to the public purchasing numerous Geiger counters, revealing potential nuclear radiation problems in China. Besides concerns over food safety, now there's also a concern about the safety of building materials. Indeed, such unintended consequences have been seen more than once after China's reactions to the Fukushima nuclear wastewater discharges. After the Chinese customs announced a ban on Japanese seafood imports, there was widespread panic. A survey by the paper showed that out of nearly 90,000 respondents, 80,000 said they would stop consuming seafood, including non-Japanese seafood. While China's ban affected Japan's seafood exports to China, its impact on Japan's GDP was minimal. In 2022, China imported $600 million worth of seafood from Japan, which constituted less than 30% of Japan's total seafood exports and only 0.015% of Japan's GDP. However, for China, the effects were more significant. Data indicates that in 2022, China's marine aquaculture industry was worth 464 billion yuan, and the marine fishing industry was worth 249 billion yuan, totaling 713 billion yuan, approximately $97.8 billion US dollars, and accounting for 0.08% of China's GDP that year. Based on the GDP loss ratio, the impact of this ban on China was at least 5 to 6 times greater than on Japan. So far, fishermen, marine logistics, seafood processing, and seafood retail have all been hit hard by the ban. Many businesses are even at risk of bankruptcy. What's more concerning is that Japan plans to continuously discharge so-called treated nuclear wastewater into the ocean for the next 30 years. This raises an unsettling question. Are the Chinese people expected to refrain from consuming seafood for 3 decades because of this ban? Will the Chinese government's decision end up being a failed project? According to recent reports, Japan has brought this dispute to the World Trade Organization, WTO. If the WTO makes a ruling demanding China to lift the ban on Japanese seafood, Beijing will find itself in a predicament. On one hand, China's current trade situation is worrisome, making it almost impossible to bear the cost of leaving the WTO. On the other hand, if China doesn't comply with the WTO's decision, it risks being forced out, potentially escalating its foreign trade crisis. Complicating matters is the fact that China's own experts have actually endorsed Japan's decision to discharge the nuclear wastewater. Last year, in the Special Working Group of the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, a Chinese expert, Liu Hua, who also served as Deputy Director General of the IAEA, was present. Having formerly held positions as the Deputy Minister of Environmental Protection and the Director of the Nuclear Safety Bureau in China, Liu was the official representative of the Chinese government and the IAEA. Thus, an obvious question arises: if your official representative has already agreed, why then impose sanctions on Japanese seafood? What exactly is the Chinese Communist Party's stance in this series of events, and what game are they playing?
Yes, sir, gotta give a shout out to all of the people behind Money in My Mind and Snoop Dogg become who he is. I'm talking about subscribing. Turn on that notification to Money in My Mind.